Hello, fourth grade scientists. How are you? Welcome back. We wanted to go over our second part of our experiment. Before we do, I am extremely thirsty. I just wanted to take a quick sip, clear my throat a little bit. No, I'm not going to drink this. No, not vinegar. That wouldn't quench my thirst at all. But I just wanted to go over the second part of our experiment. I don't know how many of you had an opportunity to do this at home, if you had the supplies or not. Some of you did send me a message, let me know that you were trying it. And if you had a chance to kind of check it out the past couple of days, because we've had it in the solution for 3 days, and just wanted to kind of see what was happening. And I think the last video we mentioned that we could almost see it right off the bat, some of this almost a reaction taking place. If I make some observations now, a couple things I notice. One, if I'm not mistaken, the egg actually looks larger than when we first put it into the vinegar. Number two, I think if I'm looking at the side of the egg, I notice almost like something coming off of the egg, almost like a membrane. And lastly, number three, I do notice that the egg is still covered in those bubbles. Okay. The next step being is that we're going to take our container to the sink, rinse it off, being gentle as we are, and as you're pouring that vinegar into the sink, maybe have somebody at home, mom, dad, making sure that we're wearing protective eye gear just in case it splashes up, and we'll see what the egg is like afterwards. Okay, I'll meet you at the sink, and we'll see what happens. Guys, here we are at the sink. We're just going to carefully pour out the vinegar and take the egg in our hand and just kind of rinse it off a little bit. I already feel almost pieces coming off. You see, like even in my hand, that there's this almost chalkiness that's on the outside of the egg. We'll just clean this up and we'll come back in a second to you. Alright guys, we're back from the sink with our egg. A couple things that I notice about my egg is that there's hardly any shell left on the egg. And I said hardly any just because there almost seems like there's still one little spot left on my egg that still has shell. It looks really white like shell, but when I go to touch it, it almost feels like a paper covering on the outside. So I am assuming that this part of the egg might have been peaking just a little bit above the level of the vinegar, and it didn't react as well as the rest of the egg. Now, what happened, guys, is that when we placed our hard-boiled egg inside of the vinegar, there is acid inside of the white distilled vinegar, and it created a chemical reaction with the shell of our egg. There is calcium carbonate in the shell of the egg, and that basically broke down. And that is why on the outside of our eggs, we got a chance to see all those little bubbles. Those were actually bubbles of CO2, carbon dioxide, because it was a result of that chemical reaction. Now, I've read online a couple places where they say that once you do this with a hard-boiled egg, that it almost turns into a bouncy ball. Now, disclaimer here, make sure you ask somebody at home, an adult, if this is okay for you to try out. I don't want anybody saying, well, Mr. Legal said it was okay to throw eggs around the house. And that is not what I'm saying here, but we can try it out, okay? So first, I'm just going to do a couple of inches maybe off the top of the table here and see what kind of a bounce we get. Yeah, a little bit of a bounce, Maybe, should we try a little bit higher? Okay, about from here. Okay, it was a little bit of a bounce. I wouldn't call it a bouncy ball though. So what we could do now, a couple of things, guys, that we didn't get the bounce, we didn't get the shell didn't fully dissolve here. We can create another vinegar bath. Place the egg back inside of some fresh vinegar and set it aside for another 3 days. Making sure, if you had that patch like I do, place that side down, okay? Making sure that it is underneath the level of the vinegar. And maybe after 3 days, we'll get more of a bounce. If you had an opportunity to do this experiment and you want to share some things that happened, whether they're pictures or just some notes or some observations that you made, please do. I would love to hear from you. And if you do the 3 days and try the bounce again and it works out, or even if it doesn't, that's a part of science, let me know. I want to hear from you, okay? This is Mr. Legal signing off. Over and out.